you don't drop calls all the time.
you know, and this is the frustrating part, you know, they want to make sure everybody has 5G and everyone has access to affordable internet at home. Okay, I'm all for that,
Me too.
but
But it would be nice, so if you are where I live and you go down, like where my godson lives.
issue,
Right,
because I have to use a hotspot.
right.
You look rain, right?
It's absolutely.
I wouldn't bring these up on the court for half hour. Oh, you got it. We got a shower, just 15, 20 minutes.
I see, we're kind of.
It's gonna be tough because. And then fireworks last. It's an easy part. You can bring it Sunday. Smoke food all day. There you go.
I know, my daughter did this.
As far as I could smoke right now, I got a trigger. Yeah. I really need a trigger. Yeah, right. There's so many different kinds of violations. We're probably going
She's printing them.
What I wanted to make sure was. You need one million? So.
Good morning, Jerry. It appears that. Oh, quickly. Like the length. Right?
So you use it to this one, yeah. There's no way to use anything like that. Okay. I need something, or just send me an email. Okay. It's mostly that says you will not claim no state or anything else. But I just need some information. It'll show that I thing.
Yeah, no, we use the timesheets, that's our hourly rate, makes some credits, so.
I got mine. I got planned twice. I still.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm gonna appropriate that to, for all the conversations at my municipal. And then, the right one. Yes. You know, I haven't got. For, first.
Okay. Who on Zoom is 1085? Last four digits of your phone number.
My manifest, so my manifest, all of them.
Joe.
Everybody here? Out there, Zoom,
It's
Lisa.
my.
It's got both, last time twice.
9441785.
Mike says Mike. So I don't know what the other one is. I've got two people on Zoom. But I need to be able to identify the second person. Nope.
Morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Sounded like.
It's Mike.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Okay, I can barely hear you guys. It's kind of hit and miss from where I'm at, so I'll try my best today.
What? Oh, right. He's got some with big butter fingers.
Good deal. Yep.
Hey, the next slide, Public Works Community Water.
Hi, good morning. Mike, can you hear us okay?
Mike's on Zoom, that's all.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's very in and out. It's cutting in and out quite a bit, but I'll try to do my best.
First item is create a position, build the grounds, custodian.
Mike, do you want to talk on the custodian position?
Yes, I would like to. What we're doing with the custodian position, we're looking to expand our current cleaning crew. Currently, we have one senior custodian and one cleaner. I would like to slowly expand that crew. I want to take over more of the contracted duties, such as window washing, waxing and sealing of our hard surfaces and the 14 buildings we take care of. This person would also learn to shadow the senior mechanic. Steve Miller is our senior mechanic at this time, and Steve's in his 60s now. I'm not sure, he hasn't really talked too much about retirement, but I don't want to be left in the dark when Steve retires. So we're looking to add this position to help save some duties that we have contracted out. So we did this before with our cleaner position. She took over the Government Center and Public Safety building about a year and a half ago, and we went from contracting, I believe it was like $83,000 a year in contracted work out, to spending less than $50,000 a year with her benefit package. So I'm just looking to expand on that. We have, like I said, 14 buildings, and then we're going to acquire a storage building and some other property pretty soon. And we just need a hand maintaining and keeping these items clean. This person could also do simple repairs, maintenance, and some daily painting or any other minor maintenance items that we see fit through the facilities. It would really help us out.
I can use it in the cleaning of the, Visitor Center too now.
They're currently
I can't hear you, Jim.
Daniel Business Center, Jenny said that's contracted out yet.
The Ag Center currently is, the Ag Center currently is contracted out, and then they hold events nights and weekends that I'm still trying to get the grasp of that schedule and trying to maintain that building correctly. But this custodian could also be on call for those nights and weekends purposes to make sure those classrooms downstairs and event rooms are staying clean after they host events. So this way, people aren't coming in Monday morning to find a mess.
You have a candidate in mind, Mike?
So what I'd like to do is do some moving around of people. Kim currently, she cleans Government Center and Public Safety. I'd like to create Kim's position. I'd like to move Kim to this custodian position so she has a great attention to detail, and she runs her own tight ship. So I want her to be more mobile throughout the buildings, working with Steve more throughout the facilities, and then eventually hire out the cleaner position again to fill Kim's position, which would just be then the Government Center and Public Safety.
I have a motion by Supervisor Kozlowski. Any further discussion?
Mike, do you anticipate having some contract reduction in the future then, if we have our own person doing some of these duties?
There'll still be contracted buildings. We can't take care of all the buildings yet per se, and getting those details hashed out at a true schedule is this. I really wasn't prepared for this to be on my agenda this morning. I wasn't given the heads up that this was going to be on it, or else I would have been way better prepared with a detailed duty list. But as of right now, we will have some social services buildings, stuff like that, mental health, they do their own. We will have buildings that are still contracted out, but we're looking to pull some of the contracted items to help save money in the end, because it's still hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracted cleaning.
Well, does our current contract go through the end of December? Can we do
So we
this-
have a current,
Can we do this in the budget process and then, as we see where we land? I mean, is this?
so I
something-
believe we have, right. I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I said, is this something we can do in the budget, the typical budget process, this moving around, and we've already got contracts established till the end of December. So the budget process starts next month.
Is there, Mike?
I'm here, yeah. I can barely hear what Janice had said, I'm sorry.
She wanted to know if you could do this in the budget process, as we already have some contracts in place for the end of the year with other cleaners.
Right, and we can certainly work it in. I'm looking to do this as quickly as possible, though, only because I don't know what the future is going to bring. And right now, we currently go year to year with our cleaning contracts. So I don't want to go into any later months this year not knowing what we're looking towards. And I want to be able to factor in, yes, I want to be able to factor in this new position into the next budget, but I have to have them start doing the duties prior to this way they're trained and ready to do the job prior to just being handed the duties and not having the training to do them.
When we get the new piece of property, who does the mowing of that? Is that something we're gonna have to pick up ourselves, or we hire?
We already contracted.
Correct. On the mowing side of that new property, it's 2.3 acres, and we are that's just way too much property for us to maintain in-house. We can do the small trimming and weeding that we do in front of the Ag Center, but we were going to add that main lawn space and the trimming around that storage building, which is roughly 2 acres, like I said, to our current mowing contract.
Okay.
You got money in your budget to cover this position, Mike, you know? Or it's just like-
Not without looking at the hard numbers right now. I believe we may have some money that'll be in the budget, but I don't believe it would be enough money to cover the whole position.
Well, this is the fact.
So it all depends. I'm sorry. It all depends on when we're able to actually hire the cleaner that would take the place of Kim, who would be moving to that custodial position. So, and with the hiring process nowadays, for a $15 an hour position, it'll be very difficult to fill that position. So that's why I wanted to start this early, again, because there are going to be the movement in place, and then having to try to backfill or fill a vacant position is going to be a timely process.
I know we keep, you know, adding buildings to, you know, and all this stuff kind of adds in, you know, by the building, that's fine, but all these other things come along with it. Sometimes you don't consider.
A lot of it we've been paying right along. I mean, it's kind of been our bill. So a lot of the stuff we've been paying right along. It's the small things like the maintenance of the elevator. I mean, that's not a small thing. That was a big contract. We didn't pay that. But I mean, we paid the gas, pay the electric, pay the water, pay the mowing, pay the plowing, pay the cleaning. I mean, lots of stuff we're already paying for.
Right, and some of the stuff we're paying for though can be done in-house. You know, some of the, like I said, the floor maintenance, the shampooing, the vacuuming, or not the vacuum, I'm sorry, the shampooing, the resealing of floors, stuff like that. It's all thousands of dollars that we pay yearly that we can have it done more than the once or twice a year if we have that staff in-house, really for the same money.
You're adding a union position, you're adding an employee, retirement, everything, just so you guys understand.
Okay,
So the original question by Ellen was, is there gonna be some savings in our contracts next year on the cleaning contracts? Is there gonna be some cutbacks next year and some savings to pay for this position?
Well, that's for sure. That's the goal in doing this.
Since they go out to bid for cleaning in October, I think by October, we usually have a good idea where we are, where we land. So typically, I'm through most of the budgets by then. If I know there's positions involved, I would probably start with those, you know, highlight them so you guys have an opportunity to look at what's been asked for. I know we do this every year. What's been asked for, and I understand it's time and ask for.
Or we're gonna add a position for 6 months, and they're gonna cover the cost of it. And 6 months. Right.
I don't.
And still have the cleaning contract, unless you're gonna end that.
Well, we're gonna hire. Yeah, by the end of this year.
No.
Right.
But by hopefully next year, we can work at savings in the cleaning contract to pay for this position, but for the next 6 months, we're gonna be paying any funds available to cover this position.
And that's true, but part of what he has said is he wants to kind of train this person. We don't hesitate to hire back a secretary for 6 months at a sizable salary, because they're the person that's training the new person that's coming in. I highly doubt that we'll have a candidate within the next couple of months. So then you're down to probably 4 months. That's just my thought. How many times have we had an administrative assistant retire and then we hire that person back for X amount of months?
Well, because there's usually the tens of thousands, not millions of dollars at stake.
I understand that.
I mean, that's, you know, compare an apple to orange here.
Well, yes and no.
I kind of agree with Mike, you know, that scenario that we've done, we're just kind of doing it, you know, like, I'm the person, like, somebody's still here to go, what to do, how to do it.
Didn't Mike say?
Usually we're abolishing a position after that person's trained, in this case, we're not.
I understand, but his plan is to cut back on his contracts for cleaning. Correct?
Yeah, so what we'd like to
That's
see.
for sure. That's what the goal was with hiring. That's what the goal was with hiring Kim a year and a half ago, and now I'm just looking to expand that. We pay a lot of money. For instance, the Ag Center alone is over $50,000 a year to clean. We can hire a cleaner to do it in-house for less than that $50,000 mark and put somebody there 8 hours a day. We can utilize these same people across the different buildings, and it's going to end up saving. But it's I'm trying to do this in baby steps. The square footage of the buildings is only getting larger as we progress and buy more properties, and the work is there. At the end of the day, the work is there. So I'm just trying to best utilize tax dollars by bringing jobs back in-house and not holding contracts for a lot of the simple cleaning things that we pay large dollars for, the prevailing wages and such for. So,
Mike, did you say you have most of, or possibly all the funding for this contract for the remaining of the year in your budget?
So we've already got a cleaner position budgeted for. So switching Kim from the cleaner position to the custodian position, it's pretty much a wash. And then after a few months, we would hire on the cleaner. And right now, being midway through the year, I really don't know where I'm going to stand. There are some things going on within my department as well that I may be losing another employee. So financially, I believe financially we'll have the money in my budget. I will not have to ask for more money to hire additional people. But there is that possibility because it's maintenance. It's anything's unforeseen, and the money's got to be spent to maintain the properties, even no matter how good my plan is what I'm trying to get across. But I can't go into next year with no contract, try to hire somebody in December or January, banking that person is going to be available. I have to start this process now.
Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to number 2, discuss service contract, power, preventive maintenance, various county buildings, what they, power.
The generators.
Yeah, they do a large generator kind of maintenance and repairs.
Generator maintenance.
So they come out and they do all the kind of maintenance on kind of like this generator, but all of the emergency tower generator sites that we have, they include for us, and then say something breaks in an emergency, we're right there to come right out and take care of us.
There's a contract, we will be charged every time, correct?
Well, they'll charge us, but this one encompasses all of that, there's a preventative maintenance side, and then there's repairs as needed side.
Motion by Supervisor Kale, for the discussion. All in favor? Opposed? 2 carries. Number 3 is another professional service contract with Rock Glass. Purchase or installation of glass at various county buildings.
Yeah, so this
Not to
is,
exceed $10,000.
yeah, so this is for, frost glass when they come in. For instance, we had a situation where the jail, where the glass invitation got shattered by an inmate, prisoner, and then we have to come in and do other installation of glass, if we have repairs that have to take place.
Yes, motion. Motion by Supervisor Kozlowski. Further discussion? In favor? Opposed? Whoops, two twos. Now the project closed out. I'm going to share next to documents for review replacement project and various accountability.
Yep, that was for the project that we opened up to take care of the roofs on the campus and then down the dog shelter. Those projects are complete.
Motion by Supervisor Kale, for discussion. No needs for the done. Okay.
Everything seems to be great. They did a really good job at it.
All in favor? All carries. Next is FYI. Split unit egg center server.
Yeah, no, is Mike, can you
Yep,
say
so
that?
I will, I'll discuss this. The split unit in the Ag Center, the USDA server room currently has a 1-ton split unit. And what it is condensers on the roof. The head unit is in the server room. And what it does is cools all of the servers and computer IT equipment for USDA. The unit itself is a 2012. And what we saw is it's been reported, the unit has not been working correctly in 18 to 24 months. And now the unit has shorted itself out. The compressor has a dead short, and while that shorted, it took out the computer or control board within the unit. And with it being 12 years old, it's a Carrier unit. Carrier is a good home use brand for your living room or for a general area, stuff like that. But this unit runs 24 hours a day to keep that computer equipment cool. And it's pretty much a residential unit in a commercial setting. So my guys troubleshooted the unit. They could not find anything that we needed to replace in-house. We thought it was either low on Freon or had the compressor issue. So we had MJ Mechanical come out and diagnose the issue. That's when they found the control board would not do anything, and the compressor, even after jumping the controls, would not come on. It would kick the breaker right away. So what they did is recommended a full replacement of the system because it's far seen its life expectancy being a residential unit. So what we are doing is putting a 1.5-ton unit in, a little bit bigger Mitsubishi commercial unit. And actually Hardings is on site this morning. So I had MJ give us the price, and their estimate was $10,300 to replace in kind with a 1-ton unit. And then Hardings gave us an estimate with a larger 1.5-ton Mitsubishi with labor, and that came in $5,875. So it's roughly $6,000, but this is something that this area cannot be without.
This is already in progress, sir.
It's already in progress. We treated this as an emergency purchase because of what it controls. It has to keep that server room, it has to keep the computer equipment cool, or else we'll have major issues within that equipment. And being USDA, it's not even our equipment, so we have to play our part as the landlords to make sure all equipment is operating properly.
Move on to permission to go for an RFP for parking lot maintenance at the courthouse campus.
You're cutting in and out, guys. I'm sorry. Kristen, can you, I can't hear is all.
Yeah, this is for the parking lot out here. We would like to put an RFP out. We've looked at this parking lot a couple times to see what we can do. And everybody has their own opinion on blacktop and units. And I've actually reached out to Craig Woodward at the hospital as well. I know they did a big parking lot project up there. And I spoke with Jen, county attorney, to listen to what would be the best avenues for this. And we'd like to put an RFP out to have some people submit stuff to see exactly what they would recommend for this. Some people are gonna tell you it's a total mill and fill, I don't want to talk to you on it. So we'd like to just put an RFP out.
But that was the peak thing, you know, you guys are, that's kind of your house.
I mean, we've had our thoughts on conversations as far as it could be probably milled off and then repaved. That would be something we contracted out, we don't have a paper or a mill.
All right.
Probably.
With all the cracks and stuff in there, probably should go off a little bit, the way it got now. Otherwise, you'll keep having the same problems.
You gotta really get it right.
Who did it last time?
That was way before me. I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, that has been a while, I mean, it was years ago, I remember we did some repairs out there.
You guys did the minor repairs out here
Yeah.
prior to that.
We kind of hope that if they could, at least mill it or something, they could do it on the weekend, you know.
Well, that's something that we also have to look at, obviously, it's not.
Start being placed out. And if you get somebody there to mill it, you know, some of these towns might put that in trucks for the milling. you know.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about, maybe putting an RFP out, just like.
Yeah,
Our trucks would be able to keep up with this out here. Yeah, so that's something that we definitely help out with providing trucking.
So if I could just add, so what we did last year through the budget, you know, we knew we had this project coming up. We knew the parking lots have been in rough shape for a couple of years now, or the parking lot there at the campus. So what we wanted to do is try to, we never really had a blacktop maintenance fund. We went into last year, the year before, with a little bit of money. We increased that to $60,000 is what we have to utilize. But in doing the budget last year, now prices of materials and fuel have gone through the roof. So I'm still limited to what I'm able to do with the $60,000. And that's why we feel the RFP, putting that out there for the best solution for our parking lot with the drainage, whether it just needs micro paving again, or however we can get by, you know, the best way financially without having to spend huge dollars. So that's where we are with that.
The key word in this is courthouse campus, you know, couldn't get the court stuff. No, that at all. Okay,
How long is something like that good for? Like, would it make sense to do that? To do the whole, do it right?
just,
I
yeah.
mean, instead of just driving around. I mean, how long
You're gonna do
depends
it,
if
do it
it was
correctly.
done last? I don't know how long something should be done, I don't know what that timeframe is.
It'll last you 15.
It will, yeah, but if it's maintained properly, I mean, the problem under now is this material is brittle. So if you try to seal it or something like that, it's just putting Band-Aids on it and you're wasting
And
money.
we did budget money for it. So I don't know how much it costs to do
Neither do we, and that's.
rock.
That's why we want the RFP. I'll move it.
It makes sense.
I have a motion by Supervisor Davis
Find out.
for, buildings and grounds, well, for an RFP for this project. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Five carried.
Find out what's out there.
The county buildings that are in need.
Ag center.
Something like probably, maybe the ag center is in dire need of something.
Do a job once.
Yeah,
You know, have them come do multiple, like, better deal, give me more money, but I don't know, I don't know what the purpose, like, kind of public health.
Mike, did you hear that?
No, I didn't, I'm sorry.
Brian wanted to know if there's any other parking lots that are in need of, repair, that, you know, to make it one bigger job. Maybe be more efficient.
So we started looking into that a couple of years ago. The DSS lot is in good shape. The Ag Center parking lot is showing signs of weathering. For the age of the parking lot, it looks twice or three times the age. So the Ag Center is definitely one of the ones we're gonna have to look at. But we really didn't want to do too much with that Ag Center lot yet without the replacement or the restructure of that retaining wall, because a lot of that blacktop is gonna have to be repaired at that time as well. But we just know that the, you know, with general maintenance of sealing and striping, most of our lots are pretty flat and we can get by. We just know on the campus here that there was a Band-Aid put on it years ago, and it's time to rip that Band-Aid off and really try to put another lengthy coat on it to get us by.
Okay, we'll move on to permission to bid for a makeup area unit at the jail.
Yep, so we already have drawings, working with Campus Construction, and we have drawings back from, you know, the design company. And what we're looking to do, we had the approvals to do this project. The equipment's roughly 26 or so, 28 years old, the original unit at the jail. And we would like to put this out to bid finally so we can get equipment coming and get the project underway.
This is similar to what we did at the courthouse a year ago.
It's similar, yes, the similar style of what we're doing. So every building or all the large buildings have the makeup there. And this one is just inside a secure ceiling within the facility. So there's a little more to it. So we're just gonna, you know, go from there.
This is already been budgeted.
It is.
Motion by Supervisor Grant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Disposition of the fixed assets, surplus and dispose of 2013 E2 van. Evidently you have renewed.
Yep, so I'm sorry. I think there's a little bit of a delay, but what we're doing with getting rid of the black Ford van, we got our new Chevy van in, so we're looking to dispose of the black van.
Motion by Supervisor Davis.
Get rid of that Ford.
Get rid of the Ford.
That's my main problem.
That's not my problem. Absolutely.
We're already in that joke material. I had some.
Yes, that is, so that would be still better than using equity out of that van, if we choose to do that program.
Oh, okay, and put it towards the other group, like trade 3 in for 2.
Yes,
that could be the
upfront cost for the replacement.
Okay, cool.
All those in favor, disposition to the van?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
We should probably, well, then if those vehicles all lined up down there, we want to make sure that Buffalo Auto Auction, I don't know how they get called, right? Is that something that Brian Becker usually does, right? He knows that there's all the time, because we don't want to do it. We want to make sure that we're collecting the vehicles for everybody.
We'll let them talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, move on to number 8. And 9, so we can discuss them jointly. That is the second lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management. The lease of 2023 Chevy Silverado 2500 regular cab, 8-foot box, replace 2017 Chevrolet. Not to exceed 28,028 for 36 months.
So Jim, there's a total of 12 vehicles on here, and I know that Connor has some paperwork for the committee to see. I wonder if it would be easier to talk about all 12
That's what I kind of wanted to
in one conversation.
Well, that's sorry.
Sure, we're not doing 17. Joe County. We're getting rid of the 17. Tell them that was
500,000 miles.
500,000 in the last couple of years.
Last forever.
Well, it's a couple of GM.
Yeah, I know, I like.
That's why I never had to buy too many pickups. 76 Chevy, I had 350,000 on that.
Last year. I did one.
What are you talking? Multiple handouts.
This wasn't enough.
Don't try to come in electricity right now.
Really down the road.
I've been watching some fire training. He's on, they can't put a battery fire out. Takes 3-4 hours, thousands of gallons.
Right.
And even the phone doesn't.
And then you've got hazards. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, I'm not there yet, but I'm really doing. I'm trying to do my own.
For me, the common vehicles, I'm not driven very far every day. Charging it.
Some, yes.
Probably might. Health department.
You're right. That's why I'm so.
Okay.
I'm more for the hydrogen. So now they got the hydrogen plant going in on Jackson Town. Be interesting. I know GM. Skyler and
Yeah.
definitely got counties around us that are. Probably. We have information, you don't have time to really sit down. Yeah. Start looking at charts and graphs. All right. Give us your spiel.
Should we just begin?
Yeah, to kind of begin, but we do this.
Might use the role for as you speak, and I want to make sure it's open forum, so feel free to interrupt and ask questions as they come up. But I know many of you were part of our initial meeting a little over a month ago, so it's kind of a review. We have an objective to reduce the overall age of the state buildings and ground highway departments. Currently, we're holding vehicles for just under 11 years with the program, which we can maximize cash flow, reduce the holding period of your vehicles from about 11 to just over 3 years. Taking advantage of equity in those vehicles, again, maximizing cash flow for using an open equity lease, and resulting in overall savings in 10 years of $583,295. That being said, we have some vehicles that you have just brought out to the Buildings and Grounds Department that part of that analysis and part of what we reviewed were used as equity for those replacements, as well as the highway department. The implementation, I worked directly with Devin and Mike as far as speccing out the vehicles we need for the 2023 replacements. The replacement worksheet will give further detail on how we look to implement that, the vehicle numbers, department, and then the vehicle types that we're replacing with. It's also included with the aftermarket equipment that they need for the work for each of those vehicles. It shows the lease term, the structure, the quote numbers, which I prepared post Janice that you can share with you after. The monthly lease cost, and then the overall annual lease cost based on these vehicles landing in January. The transition of this is more looking towards the 2023 budget. Just to give you all some background on what's going on with the industry and manufacturers. Right now, GM is open, the order banks, they have tentative pricing. So again, I was very conservative with these numbers. So you're gonna add a 10% inflation based off 2022s. We're waiting on government incentives. So these numbers do not have your government incentives included. I was very conservative with the estimated values or the equity that we're rolling into these replacements. And again, the annual lease cost is assuming that these land, January 1, and the lease payments start for 12 months. The truism of that is we're really basing on, what we're gonna see from manufacturers, what all of the manufacturers are doing right now, which is something that's been happening over the last couple of years. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term, it's called allocation. So what they do is take into account the amount of vehicles that you've purchased in the last 3 to 5 years, and they will allocate certain amounts. So the importance of moving proactively in this situation allows you to, one, take advantage of factory vehicles that are from the manufacturer. When you're going out to bid, the inventory is down about 59% year over year, meaning bids are not coming up when they are for much higher. Dealerships are marking vehicles up significantly higher than what we've seen in the past. This allows you to avoid that. Your pricing is invoiced less for government incentives rather than going directly to the dealership that again is marking those vehicles up. By having the approval to do this now will allow me to, if we don't get the necessary allocation for all the replacements, I can then work through Ford when they open up and potentially Ram as well. So it gives us a venue to work with and making sure we're reducing overall our costs and then implementing the process as we see in the analysis. To give a little background on the actual payment structure as well, so what you see from the monthly base cost, how it will work, you do not have any payments whatsoever until the vehicle is delivered. So when you order these vehicles, there's no upfront payment, everything is structured in your lease process. Your first payment starts from a monthly standpoint, a month after that vehicle delivers, then it will just be a monthly payment. So it will all depend on when the vehicles land. So this number that we're seeing on an annual cost standpoint, this would be, I don't want to use the term worst case scenario, but the highest possible cost. Again, this is not including government incentives. This would be the numbers if we had to send these out to a dealership to build them for us. Again, that's an avenue that we have the ability to use. If there is no allocation, we have specific relationships and contracts with dealerships where we can actually have them build this for us. And it's kind of dependent on what incentives they use. So this would be the highest possible cost if you're looking at that budget. But again, it's a very conservative one.
You had a key word there, delivery.
Correct.
How's the delivery, the chip? How are the chips coming through now? I've heard it started to get better, but
a little bit. Again, we are the best suited to help you navigate this process. So again, with our current partners, we partner with counties across upstate New York and have been for a long time. We're the best suited to help you navigate this process. I currently meet with our manufacturers probably once a month. We have constant updates internally because we're the biggest buyer and seller of vehicles in North America. They can give us insight on what to expect, how to prepare, how to proactively plan ahead. So we have these avenues to make sure you get the vehicles you need at the best possible cost, and then minimizing your upfront cash flow by structuring out these leases. You still retain the rights to equity. There's no mileage penalties or structure that we have to coordinate that out with. Because you have an in-house maintenance facility, the mileage is really just structuring the best way to put the lease from a monthly payment and a monthly structure standpoint. Because it's handled in-house, nothing will change. You can maintain those, you're just making newer extra vehicles, so your operational spend will significantly reduce. You're only looking at preventative maintenance. All the equity you capture from the sale of those vehicles will roll right into the upfront cost of those replacement leases. Sustainably, that will drive down the cost year after year. And it allows you to operate a newer extra fleet from a safety standpoint. That's one of the huge components there that our municipalities and government partners have really appreciated. And then from that point on, we make the ultimate decision of replacement. I structured these to maximize your cost savings, but ultimately the replacement is your decision. So I just want to make sure that that's very clear. If there's something where maybe a vehicle you don't agree makes sense, you make that decision. But we will always provide the data for you on an annual basis. We will have myself, a client strategy manager, a fleet count coordinator that work directly for you. We monitor the data, we create an analysis every year, we look at every vehicle every year, present the data, and you ultimately decide what we'd like to do with those replacements, what's gonna be the best option moving forward. There's even scenarios, which is a perfect example of what we're doing with one of the highway vehicles, number 16, and then that Ford van from buildings and grounds. Sometimes there's not necessarily a need for that replacement. Right sizing your fleet is part of what we do. By operating numerous vehicles, you don't run into the need for maybe extras or spare vehicles. You can run leaner, more cost effective, and then have the option to extend or shorten leases based on what your needs are.
We can then each individual lease at any time.
100%. So there's, again, we run your business on a per vehicle basis. So the contracts themselves, we have agreements that we had set out, a couple of months ago. Those just allow you to partner with us, and allow you to take advantage of our programs. If this is something, I'd like to think that would not happen, but if you're in a position where maybe you're not seeing value, you can sell vehicles, have them placed for you. So there's no penalties to you financially, or from an operational standpoint, if you find this isn't the best fit. So from a risk standpoint, there's little to no risk. But again, we can help you navigate the industry, we can help make sure that you're in the best spot. And when it comes to your budget, we help you structure your budget to meet those needs. So what we see here, if you have a budget set that might be higher or lower, we can actually take advantage of what you have, what we can utilize with the equity replacement costs, and structure it the way you need it.
Where do we take them for warranty work?
So all the warranties will pass through. Whatever you've done traditionally with the warranties, you can continue to do. Dealers, nothing changes with your operation. Like I said, we have maintenance programs based on how you guys are structured with your internal maintenance program or in-house shops. You handle it the exact same way. So you operate these vehicles as your own. You're not responsible for doing anything special or going just to an enterprise shop with this. You operate them as you've been. If there is potential for certain vehicles, we need maintenance for different departments, that's a later conversation. But for these two departments, it's been clear that Devin and Mike have it handled internally, so we continue to do that as far as that.
So in other words, if we had a transmission problem, we could take it to Perry's.
Absolutely.
Conroy's, wherever, I mean.
100%. If you have good relationships, we want you to maintain that. Nothing will change with the vehicles.
So your comment on when the trade-in goes back towards the value, that's a one-time deal. Once we lease these vehicles, then we're going to replace these vehicles in 3 years. At the end of 3 years, or whatever the lease term is for, whether it's 60 months or 36 months.
Sure.
We have no equity at that point.
No, that's incorrect. So you maintain the rights to all the equity of your vehicles throughout. That's the difference between our open and equity lease and like a dealership lease or a net lease, if you will. You maintain the rights to all the equity of those vehicles. That's the premise of the program.
It's what the same as
year one, sir. This is just looking at the year one replacements.
Right, so, okay, so let's use the first truck right off the top. We got the 2023 Chevy Silverado 3500 HD. We're replacing an 05 F-350. Your annual lease cost is $11,546, which is $1,000 a month to lease this vehicle.
Correct.
We're gonna get $4,200 out of Ford. So we can, get the first 4 months free, just for, or whatever. But at the end of 60 months, we want to lease in that 2023. We have no equity at that point, or
Yes, you do.
we don't have vehicle.
Yeah, it's the same thing as owning.
That's it's very common in misconception of that. The structure of our lease allows you to maintain rights to all equity. So we're navigating the purchase of vehicle we acquire, we will hold title, vehicles are registered to the county. That allows us for flexibility as well. So, I structured this again, what I'm seeing now, based on the utilization, based on the aftermarket equipment, it doesn't necessarily make sense to have a large one-time chassis with a bunch of aftermarket. You structure a 36-month lease. So I did this to make sure we appreciate it properly, it's right set up, and we want to take a look at selling that vehicle. But the thing tells you, we look at every vehicle every year. If it makes sense to sell early, you sell early, and the decisions made to do that are all based on the equity that you have in that vehicle. But that's the sustainability piece. If everyone would flip to the analysis, on the 2 pages in, I believe it's page 4 of the board. When you look through the analysis, it'll show equity owned and then equity leased dollars. The reason the savings is so significant is because the people property would hold a lot. We project this out over 10 years, we reduce the cost by percentages on a year-end basis, so it gives a really good look at what the equity will be holding. Again, with operating most vehicles in North America, we have a lot of data that we utilize. We use this very conservatively, but the whole point of it is your average sustainable savings on an annual basis will continue to drive down, because if you continue to roll the equity from those leases, that drives down the upfront costs. So this is a continuous process, and it's a flexible process. So we can structure it in 36 months, 60 months, based on what we see fit for what your operation is. If things change, maybe there's a vehicle that has a different duty after 2 years. The mileage factor will up. That's when we take a look and say, okay, maybe this makes sense to sell this earlier. Maybe it makes sense if something goes down to extend it. The flexibility is there, just the overall decision making is still in your hands. But you have the data and our ability to provide that data from our economies of scale to really let you make those decisions and reduce the financial impact. The biggest piece from an equity standpoint too is we don't just put vehicles up to auction or bid. We have 19,000 home buyers. We get based on our relationships, operating most vehicles in America. We have people waiting for those vehicles. We have an entire marketing department where they're solely graded on the disposition. So the haste in which they can sell the vehicles, and the overall return. So that gives us an edge on the average 110% Black Book CBI, which is the wholesale market index. And you can take it not into account where the industry is, everything's high right now. The used car sale market is the highest we've ever seen. Before that and after, maintaining that, we're 110% above that Black Book CBI. It avoids auction fees, it avoids waiting for that vehicle to be picked up with their auction. So we handle that entire process for you. Really, it reduces your administrative burden. And again, we present everything to you in a fashion, and ultimately just make a decision from the financial impact.
Is that equity reduced if the vehicle has some sort of damage to it, when you get into multiple scratches, cigarette burn holes in the seats, things on that order?
We're supposed to be smoking in the seat.
Smoking in the car, just so you know.
Drinking.
It's in the policy.
No one's fully.
No, it's in the policy.
It's no different.
Just saying.
It's no different than how you handle it today. So if you run these vehicles, you operate these vehicles as they're yours. The same way we put a vehicle out to bid and there's damage, maybe it'll reduce the cost. You handle claims the exact same way you did. A lot of times premiums are reduced because you're operating newer nicer vehicles, so that will help from an insurance standpoint. But when you have these issues happen, you can let us know, handle it in-house. But again, when that vehicle is being sold, it'll affect it any way of it before. It's not a net piece where that damage will really penalize you. There's no wear and tear penalty or anything. Again, it's based on mileage, condition, and where the market is. Again, that flexibility piece that we have on our end from the structure that open-ended release allows you to take advantage of it when the industry process is correct. Again, but it also makes your decision on how you proceed with it.
So when you structure these leases at different intervals, is that based on the mileage you think these vehicles are running through?
Absolutely a factor. So mileage is a key component. The type of vehicle is a key component. These one-ton chassis are expensive vehicles. We want time to properly appreciate that, but again, minimize cash flow upfront that you pay for that vehicle. So there's a lot that goes into this, science behind it. We want to make sure that the aftermarket, the expensive aftermarket you have in some of these vehicles, that's also appreciated. Operator right set up on replacement. Again, the flexibility is always there, but my initial structure is based on what I see in those vehicles, what they're being operated, how they're being operated, mileage guidance. Again, when things change, because they do, it's the fleet budgeting is always a moving target. We just take the data and we help structure that in a sustainable way to maximize, what you can do.
And they cover all this aftermarket, but here.
Your vehicles, when they deliver, will be turnkey ready. All of it is all of your aftermarkets. There's no upfront cash that you're doing for this aftermarket. You're not just looking at this cost and saying, okay, we got to pay for this aftermarket. Everything is structured within the lease. And when those vehicles show up, you turn the key and go.
we'll put our county seal on it and turn the key and go.
There you go.
I know we talked about this originally, you know, let's dip our toe into this, but I didn't realize, you know, by January, we're gonna get 10 new vehicles,
We're gonna dip our whole foot. And we're hoping by January, I'll make that in as well. You know, we're saying, I have no control of the manufacturers, we're the best thing to help mitigate this. Running issues with manufacturers, we can use leverage from the remaining two. So I'm really hoping they come in by January for you, but if not, it's whenever they land, monthly payment starts after, and you know, the process moving forward.
Would it be possible to start putting at least the enterprise, if you were gonna go with the enterprise, is it possible to start putting the maintenance record in your system instead of paper? Kind of start that process rolling easily, so it'd be easy data to retrieve, so we can do some comparison if we wanted to move forward with other departments.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I mean, it's gonna be a learning curve, and I don't know who's gonna teach whoever, but I think it's something that as we go paperless throughout the county, it might be a good idea.
Yeah, we'll start using Upworks more.
Yeah, I think we should utilize that.
The only
Especially
thing that
when
you're
we
gonna
wanna
have
start looking
is
at
maybe
comparing,
break that.
are we really saying, what are we, that's always a question. Maintenance numbers are, they're only numbers.
In a couple of years, we're gonna have to look to see how we, you know,
Have these.
if we realize any savings or not. So we-
That's just it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Stupid thing.
And not to jump in there, but this is something Devin and I briefly talked about. This is something I've implemented with other municipalities. Same position of they take care of greenhouse maintenance. We have a system called Auto Upgrade. We set it up free. It's part of, we want data capture. It's part of the program. The more we know, the more we can make proper recommendations. They will do webinars. They will walk you through the process.
Software, right?
Exactly.
And it's free.
Yep. It's on the.
It's,
Nothing's free. Paying for it here.
Nothing's
We're
free.
paying
It's
for
built
it
into
here.
the cost.
It is.
Since that's all. The structure, which I'll share.
Don't tell them.
No, it's not.
The biggest thing behind there, I mean, there's a few, like, there's Element, there's a large fleet management company, MK, there's a few out there.
Just don't know how much.
Enterprise is the only thing that's really focused on municipality sector. You know, if you look around upstate New York, we really partner with the majority of surrounding counties and as well as colleges, so we have a ton of student partners. We have, you know, from the town level to the village level, certain relationships with multiple villages. Canton, Watkins Glen, just in a few now, recently, Messina. But again, it's a very simple process. So we can pass down our structure, how we operate our fleet, because you can share your buying power as a municipality. You buy upfront, you buy cheap, run for useful life, sell it when they're still equity, and sustainably reduce your costs.
We should also point out, we had an estimated budget for this year, I think it was $45,000, that was just for one vehicle. And that, and, you know, price of everything, how it worked, what isn't sufficient at this point.
Actually, how this is going to compare to the amount usually budget for vehicle replacement? How's this compare?
You know, I don't know how far this pass, I just know this year was that 350 budgeted for $45,000, but we get all these vehicles in-house for
130.
130, including the buildings and ground.
Wasn't it mentioned at the previous meeting, something about in order for us to participate in the whole program, we have to at least start out with a minimum of 30 or 20 vehicles or 22 vehicles?
Not upfront. So you're correct, and then you're absolutely correct, but that's it from a holistic standpoint. Very little time do we come into an organization, and I recommend replacing the entire fleet from a cash flow standpoint. It's typically not doable, and in the market, it's not doable at all. Our whole goal is to implement a plan and a consistent structure in which we can look at the vehicles that need work right away? What are the vehicles that are safety concerns, really high maintenance costs? Let's take care of that first and start refreshing the fleet. We have a website in which we upload those vehicles, we establish all of that. You can start working on collecting that data right away. That will run comparisons for maintenance costs. The website is super user friendly. Now, I'm not the most savvy myself either, but I put in a couple of YouTube videos on how to navigate the entire site. Janice, Devin, and Mike, whoever's involved in the fleet will have, they can set up their structure, their dashboard, their role, and what they want to see. Obviously, we're going to be more focused on building in the accounting piece, whereas they will look at the operational side. But again, it's structured in a way to make it really user friendly. Have what we want up front, so you can do your job and spend less time that way.
But as far as the minimum amount of vehicles, there's 20 some vehicles, right?
You have to be operating the whole. So you guys are.
We don't need to replace that many after that.
No, you absolutely don't. There's certain situations where there's folks that want to start with. I think typically it would make sense to maximize your savings, getting rid of the older vehicles in which you have quite a few. There's some where newer fleets may go for, 5, 10. But it's implementing on what's the most cost effective.
But when we signed the agreement with you, say, these 10 vehicles are going high, but we don't want them to be red.
So I worked with, I think Devin, all these quotes are built, I have each quote built with these exact spec aftermarket. It would have been half a tree to print out all these, so I have the one master lease agreements here. So it has the exact aftermarket quotes, exactly what you're seeing. The quote is built to color, Mike wanted black, Devin wanted red. So that's something where we can unify moving forward. It's from, an image standpoint, we're keeping units vehicles to follow the structure rather than whatever you pull up it.
When are the vehicles assessed on your basis? When do you do that?
We won't need to do an annual, so we have an annual contract here.
When does that happen? Do we?
It's typically in this time of year, actually, so we're having our client review, and then we have a fleet planning meeting. Would be running around now to, because this is when our banks typically
For
open.
next year.
You got it. We're usually set that. I know that's sometimes really big from a government standpoint, but if not for you guys, that's great news. But the way it's changed with industry, proactive is key. We had folks this past year where if you weren't proactive, you didn't get vehicles. There's vehicles being canceled. There's things that we can't control, but we can best navigate it for you. So I quoted all Chevy because the order banks are open. If there's not an allocation process, we get an order canceled, I at least time, I can build the same vehicle Ford or Ram, and we can still make sure that we utilize it 0%. No one.
Did you say Ferrari?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. How many total vehicles do you have in this?
Entire,
Inclusive between buildings and grounds and highway, we have 23 total.
I know that, the ground is 2 here, but I know they have 6. So maybe come, January 2024, maybe we'll place something else.
We can structure replacement whenever you see fit. If you have a vehicle that's, that you have money in your budget, it's, that you can, that'll be suited to be run quotes, we can order vehicles as long as we have order banks open. Or then whenever we can, again, we work for you.
and they'll make recommendations using.
Absolutely. And, there's gonna be situations where, when we started our conversation, Mike had to replace that van, that's why we're using the equity instead of ordering a replacement. There will be situations, as once the fleet is young and fully implemented the program, we're not gonna run into those issues. It reduces downtime and cost of repair, but if you have a vehicle that goes down, you may run into a situation where it's a one-off and you need help then. Our infrastructure with dealerships, for recent clients, when I find vehicles in Connecticut, I can go to Arizona. Our infrastructure allows us to get what you need, fitting it in more specs, rather than just looking at a local dealer, this is what we got. I can really tailor it and find what you need, so when you have those one-offs, you're not in a position where you're paying an arm and a leg or something for a lot of features and specs that you don't need. Do everything I can to ensure that the vehicle fits that need at the lowest possible cost.
Do we need to build quarterly?
Quarterly, I don't know. I think everything is just structured monthly. I can look into that. That's typically how we've all set it up. I will discuss it with my finance manager.
It just seems less work to do. It seems like a lot of paperwork.
There's, so,
Well,
go ahead.
each one has to have a purchase order, each one has to have a bill, each one has to be through the process
So
every month.
what we do to help, I guess, simplify that if you will, it's all one monthly bill. So there's a bill for enterprise, right? You're not getting billed one vehicle, we send out, so on the 5th of every month, we have a lease schedule. So you'll know exactly what the cost is. That gives you, the billing doesn't happen until the 20th of the month. If you do ACH pull, ACH push, if you write a check, you can do that too. You know, that period is obviously yours, but you have time to review that, and understand if there's a discrepancy. Like, I don't see where it's coming from. You have time to review it with us. If there is potentially a change that needs to be made, that can be done in plenty of time, but it's gonna be also one bill. I can separate it with, we call it sub-customers, if you will, but I can structure it where buildings and grounds gets their own invoice.
Yeah, they would need that, but.
And then
Well, I was gonna say that.
That's what I was gonna
Each one is a
say.
separate contract, so each one.
Cancels
is
every
separate.
vehicle.
Not all our work is done, like,
Bill highway and one bill.
I understand.
Oh, for DSS.
Because they're each separate
Not gonna
contracts.
be big of an issue.
Is there a worst case scenario, I mean, that's kind of what happened, that we decided that, oh, this isn't working for us, so we're gonna do it. So now all of a sudden, we got a couple of my vehicles, replace the ones who returned back in.
Yeah, I'm confident that won't happen, but yes.
We'll keep the vehicles, right? We just had to purchase that.
You,
Or finish
if
it.
if it's something, again, you said, okay, Congress was wrong, this is now what we want to move forward with. You pay the remaining balance of the vehicle, we sell the vehicle for you, you still get the equity of the vehicle, you can use that for replacement and buying your own. And there's different, we're not gonna count on it, the last thing we wanna do is end a relationship, or we wanna make life easy for you. That's why we're here. So you're not gonna sign off on some extensive fees, or if you decide it's not for you, we're gonna help you navigate that process the best way for the county.
But like, you- some of the vehicles, I know that you replace it, you know, 2005.
Right.
You know, we get to that point again, it's maybe we're not just buy that vehicle, we'll keep it for another 5 years or something, so.
You're saying that like the higher vehicle at the top?
Yeah.
You have the option to do what?
So this is what he's explaining to you, is that the reason for this program is to say, continue to have your vehicles be new, to save on the maintenance. That's the purpose of the program. So if you're gonna do that, then you're just gonna do what we're doing now, is buy a vehicle, which
Correct.
seems to work okay, but this would probably work okay too. It takes the administrative burden off.
Basically,
We're paying for that service.
yeah, well, basically, our maintenance fees are gonna be oil filters and maybe brake pads, tires.
You don't even need tires.
Not to mention the savings for fuel and stuff right now. I mean, what's that 05 getting for fuel economy versus what, 20?
Absolutely.
2024 coming?
Absolutely.
It's probably the same right now.
It's that. So I don't.
So, Devin, you said we got 45,000 in your account for a new vehicle this year.
Something like.
Okay. So we haven't done next year's budget, but what's been our average of purchasing new vehicles?
I ran that report a while ago. I think I had that when we had the meeting last time on the phone, because I did run that, because we budgeted X amount anyways every year. I think we budgeted more than 45,000, right? I mean,
It may be 45 to 60, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember.
we kind of, like I said, we kind of do this already. We kind of budget X amount every year. DSS budget is two vehicles a year.
Right.
The highway budgets replace X vehicles a year. The sheriff budget's $120,000 a year, $150,000 a year to replace X number. We all kind of do it individually.
Mhm.
And this is kind of what I talked about at that meeting is that it's always that point of who's making the decision to move that one off and get a new one? And when does that happen? Because most of us don't know, public health, OFA, they have no idea. Jessica, like I said, she'll run that car until there's no floor in it. But, but you have to realize the savings, to pay for the cost, you have to keep the maintenance guy.
So reading his objective here on page 2. Identify the 10 vehicles, or of the vehicles. He's got $582,000 over, last 10 years, what we spent.
That's your savings there, so.
That's a savings?
That's your 10-year savings with the program. The analysis of your board will show where it comes from.
So we can get that, James, you give me that number, what we paid in the last 10 years on vehicles? For, on these 20 vehicles, or no, it's 10 vehicles, because the cost here after 10 years of $131,000 is going to be 1.3 million. Are you following me here? We're going to spend $1 million in the next 10 years to buy these vehicles, to run these vehicles. And you're saying we're going to save over half, or about half of that, 582,000. So if we were to buy new vehicles in the next 10 years, is it going to be 1.8, almost 1.9 million?
These aren't for 10 years, these are for 36 months or 60 months.
Correct, and I think he's referring to, like, he was looking at these annual, and I understand where you're coming from, but what's taken into account in this analysis, hard and soft costs, right, so you're looking at maintenance, so your purchase budget for based on the data that I collected, of vehicles you're operating is only 71,000, which seems to be pretty in line with what you're doing. So when you look at the fleet budget, and the estimated fleet budget across these vehicles combined, I'm including your maintenance costs, I'm including your fuel costs, that's at $212,000. That's everything included. Your purchase budget, I had pegged at around 71,000, which seems to be pretty close. Again, this is year in, year out, it will change, and we know that changes on a year basis. But I took the average of the data we collected, and again, it's just based off of average annual acquisitions, based on the maintenance data, which Devin had provided. So we have the data, so we're using your numbers. So we restructure this in a manner which will coincide with what you're doing today and how it's.
I'm not trying to discredit you here. You're not another page, what you look at a little bit here. And it's not you, it's the idea of it, that I'm looking at this, worst case scenario, I understand that we're gonna save some money here and whatnot. But we're gonna be spending 1.3 million.
Always have new vehicles.
Always have,
And you're hoping
for 10 new vehicles. For 10 new vehicles, not the 20.
Newer.
So next year, this goes to my next statement. Next year, when we decide to replace the other 10 vehicles, we're gonna have another $131,000 payment. We're gonna have $260,000 a year, worst case scenario. Cut it down to 150. That's being generous. But cut it back, $200,000 a year for vehicles, for all the
more than
different
what we
vehicles.
pay now. Yeah, it's more than what we spend now
Right, is it,
for these two departments.
it's considerably more.
What you will, and to counteract that, and you will see change, and I can follow your math 100%. What's not being taken into account is reducing the age of these vehicles and continuously rolling the equity of what you have in those lease vehicles back in those payments. It won't be that. And that's where the analysis comes into play. You have to look at everything holistically. You can't look at one piece without looking at the other to get a true read on what your savings will be. We're taking every cost into account in this analysis and how to lay it out. So yes, you will, your overall lease costs, once this is a sustainable program, we have a really good idea of what you're going to be paying, because even with inflation, which we see, which is close to 10% just year over year, the equity follows. And what we're going to see from that standpoint of using equity to international vehicles, it's going to help you really get as close as you can to a sustainable budget. So that's where you see the 176 on an annual basis, is because it's a rolling sustainable system. You're adding payments, but you're also adding equity. And that's the whole premise of the program. It's taking all costs into account. And if you look at the analysis, it says average sustainable savings, that is just from the operation, from structure, from a financial structure standpoint, not just the equity. So that's what you're going to see. Equity adds even more value to it.
So maybe what would be helpful would be this chart with the 10 trucks we're talking about, as opposed to the 23.
So that line, the 22 line, shows that. So it's lined out for each year. This analysis will show.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's lined out for 20-year year as well.
So
So that's what we're planning for the next.
this line 2022 shows annual needs. That's your 12. That whole line across shows that analysis, and it's year by year. So this is forecasting piece.
Are we getting time?
So there's 14 that we looked at, we're replacing 12. Because 2 of them, one we're just using the equity, the other one's already been replaced. So we're actually looking at the 12 recommended. We're spot on with what we recommended initially for the analysis. And again, from a pricing standpoint, this is the highest possible cost. This is if we, there was no incentive included. This is, we're running through a dealership. It's not planned, it's not the intention. And I will make sure that we do everything we can to plan the incentives, go through these manufacturers. And again, by approving now, we have the ability to utilize the leverage we have in the manufacturers where, this is something that later when you start with one, we have to, your hands are tied, but this is the worst cost scenario. Even if you had $2,000 to incentives, which is low from a government standpoint, it's $2,000 a vehicle. Now you got 12 vehicles right there. I mean, that significantly cuts your budget down. And then we're right back in line with that. And I want to make sure my numbers are conservative, high as possible cost. But again, our goal is to be significantly under where we're at. Even from an equity standpoint, if you average all those out, it is a group equity together. If you average those together, it's going to be lower from what I put up, a $15,000 rolling into each replacement vehicle, which our goal is to sell about that. So again, my job is to make sure it's conservative. The last thing I want to do is implement something and say, oh, we sold it for $3,000 less than month.
There are a number of other counties that are doing this.
We do.
I did speak with Chairman Benton County, seems to be favor of this program. And then we'll get the budget director.
It's up to you guys. I mean, it's a program and we can do anything. It's just a matter of, do we want to have continuous newer vehicles? Does that make sense to you theoretically with this, more taxpayers?
They're safe.
And we're paying them to do that for us. I mean, it's not free. Or do we do what we've been doing? And I mean, this is your choice. I'm either way. I mean, does the program work? I mean, on paper it does.
I know we got pick up only route. We got anything out of it. It's pretty well shot. I'm sure, it was 2005, 4, highway probably not gonna bring much money to start.
I know Devin and I have talked about perhaps, doing it in-house, but more constructed, being like advising people. Now's the time, let's trade it in, because a lot of us don't know when that time is, and it just, weeks, months, years go by, and then I retire. It's coming out. I'm like draw the line like that, that's where I go, right there.
So we do all the parts, so. Just quickly, so Ralph, County Bureau, Genesee, Calabasas, Allegheny, Chautauqua, Vernon, Steuben, Schuyler, Ontario, all partners, all the partners for a long time. Chiloma, Portland, Madison, Seneca, they're all partnered with us, and they utilize this to the departments that works best. And we have some that are like, okay, what we need this for is our police department. We do marked vehicles, we do unmarked vehicles. I personally structured that for many different municipalities based on what the needs are. There's maybe like undercover units, but the outfit for some of the marketing that's based on the municipality doesn't necessarily make sense. But it works from a systematic view across the board, and then confident reaching out to any of these counties who have been partaking in this program. They've seen the benefit and they don't want to look back. So it's something that's been implemented and used with many other peers that they've seen the value, and from a cost standpoint, it isn't free. But we do have a management fee. It's 0.1% of the capitalized price of each vehicle. That is included in the analysis. So you get our management, you're paying for our management and our consulting, if you will, but you're still saving money while you do it. Reducing administrative burden, driving your extra vehicles, safer vehicles, and really just presenting you with data. So every year we have data to show you, you ultimately make your decisions.
I know that at one time, we talked about setting up a fleet maintenance and all that stuff down there. And basically, this is exactly what we were talking about doing.
Central garage.
Right. At first, when we had this first meeting, I was a little skeptical at first, but after reviewing the information from the last meeting and this meeting, I'm willing to move 8, 9 for building and grounds and 1 through 10 for highway.
Okay, our motion was by Davis.
Save us money in the long run.
Highway.
It costs us a little bit the first year.
Is there any further?
It's not the first 3.
I'm just letting you know, I'm a vote no, 'cause I still want to see something I'm keeping spending over the last 10 years.
Well, you have to remember too, I don't have actual numbers. I don't know which vehicles they were for to replace, so I don't have, like, well, this vehicle was replacing this vehicle. I don't have any of that information. I just have dollars, which I certainly provide, and I know I ran it.
Carol, can you provide some of this information kind of left with the other supervisors? So that it's-
Oh, yeah, it'll be attached.
You know,
I'll do it for buildings and grounds and for, no, if I don't know, I'll get something. It's gonna be more, probably.
It is,
Just
it
it.
is, there's no doubt.
Because
The
we
first
haven't
year,
done a
the
good
second
job
year.
at maintaining our fleets. But we still get to seem to get to where we need to go. So again, this is one of those things that would every department like to be involved in this? Probably, it'd be a lot easier calling up and saying, can someone take care of this for me? Because, you know, maybe this is time to do it, because we're all struggling, we're all overworked, we're all, you know, and it's just one more thing that we have to try to figure out.
Time doing something else.
Yes. So, yeah, this would be great. It's gonna cost more. I can tell you that, because I don't know the numbers it cost. It cost more than 10 years ago when we looked at it. It's gonna be, but. I mean,
Maybe
like,
we can also roll in like the assessors.
that's what I was thinking.
You hear from them that they just get the crappiest car that's left over to drive all over the county in.
Right.
You know, so maybe you can get something rolled in so that they have a decent vehicle. You know, we do have departments that don't use them every day, but they need a safe one.
I even mentioned it to Justin yesterday, Robert. Well, she included it.
Right.
What she said.
She was all about it.
So like I said, I think I could run the numbers, I can pull out buildings and grounds and highway admin, or what, I don't know if these, I mean, you have these numbers, someone can get them for me.
For that, so just not to stretch your object, but Devin provided these numbers for the analysis, so all the maintenance data collected. I used that in the analysis, so this is your data that we're running this analysis through. And accuracy is extremely important for the delivery of the program. I wanted to make sure that we did that as close as possible. So from the maintenance data to where we're at from an acquisition standpoint, we have a very, very clear read on where we were compared to what we could provide. And again, the structuring of these leases in a longer period of time, the goal of it, we tend to save a significant amount of money. And that will be the case. We do the upfront costs, we're going to continue to always have a payment. But again, balance of reduction of operational spend, equity rolling in, you know, this is something that again, all of the counties that we partner with, I can speak to overall savings, but again, as you mentioned, the process and stuff, that's removed from all your department heads. We also ultimately provide the data for you to make the decision. And from the flexibility and control standpoint, you still have that control.
I believe that the money, Christian, you're playing this, but you play one vehicle every year anyway, so that's 7. And also, you're going to try to is about what it costs for the vehicle every year. Cost of vehicles are going up. And then talk about vehicles.
Hopefully that'll fix something.
And that was just saying, that was going up to bid through the OSHA's market price. They can't get vehicles.
And you also just get this, right?
Big buys don't have any good price. You're gonna get vehicles from that one. They got 'em.
It's not wasted, it's tougher, kind of well spent. You need, they're able to get something they want. They have the buying power.
Okay, any further discussion?
A lot of big businesses leasing their equipment, but my opinion, I like to sit on this another month and give it more thought and think about it.
There's a motion on
I
that.
have a motion by Supervisor Davis, so we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Okay, Chair, two noes. That's over. Okay. With the motion, we'll move back to. Thanks for the information, Tyler. We'll give your phone number, all the supervisors. Very good.
Jan's going to this, so do you prefer DocuSign or?
These contracts,
These are the actual quotes that are there. So these have the aftermarket and everything. I think we can put that in mind.
yeah, you can do that.
Perfect.
I've got that. Electronic, thank you.
We're gonna showcase the county attorney and then, we can do the electronic signature, but
I wanna say Katie would initiate, right? She's gotta put them in. So, yeah, it's.
So we're going to- No, he's gone.
The real estate things until they would say. You start replacing.
Ever go on to full equipment, just pass
Build anything.
Right, okay.
So.
Every county.
So we have agreements, so this is.
Sure, Tennessee.
James, from a structure standpoint.
Yeah, you talked to Shelley. I talked to him a long time ago about
Partnership, so agreements are signed. And quotes are signed.
certified.
Quotes first and then the second.
Hey, Devin, on Wyoming Street, coming off of Buffalo Road,
Yeah.
where we turn that into a three-way stop. On July.
Jack Graham, the chairman of the board of Ontario County.
That's, but why would we?
Oh, yeah.
The town put that there. I
Okay.
believe, Because they didn't want people barreling or big trucks barreling down the road because of the price.
But it's facing the other way. Found a sign going from Old Buffalo Road toward 28. Is it so they don't do the same thing and cut down there to hit?
Probably, yeah. It's a pretty narrow road there too.
Yeah, my parents live on that road. I just happened to come the other way to it. And I'm like, where did that sign go? It hasn't been there in 40 years.
Yeah. Just make sure you don't drive your big truck down.
Yeah, I don't want to drive a big car.
Thanks.
My husband's pickup is too big for me.
And Connor's chart, he's got a quote number next to each one, so if you can hand those out, that would be good.
Oh, we're halfway done with your agenda.
We're not even halfway. I think it should be fair.
Number 11.
This is backfilling Rich Lukowski's position.
Supervisor Grant, number 11. Heavy operator position. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody has the main work copy. Want to highlight that?
Yeah, a couple quick things. Bike Fair Bridge is done. You did the final walkthrough. I still have to do the final walkthrough with the state, but I don't anticipate there being any issues, so that one should be good. So,
Include that.
yeah, I'll take that. Shokoff Road, I think the roof is done, I believe.
It's done.
And then it's open, bridge is open, detours down.
Yep.
So that's done. We had a preliminary walkthrough with that one. That one should be all good. I mean, the contractor has a couple punch list items, but for the most part, that'll be done. Then we'll walk through the state and then we'll finish with that.
There is a dedication next Thursday.
Next Thursday at 10.
at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
there was a nice segment on the bridge, and I came to, I saw development that mostly about the dedicated before,
Right.
but it did show the bridge.
It looks good. Another thing, Exchange Street, so we selected Nova Site Construction to do the construction of that project. They were not a little bit was D&H. The D&H, we found had a shoddy OSHA record. And they also were not responsive, so they indicated that they could not meet your DDE goals in the project, which is fine. They need to submit a good faith effort report, indicating, that you attempted to. They submitted it late and it was not sufficient for what was needed, so instead of wasting more time on this project, we opted to go with the next little bidder. The DOT was in agreement, and the engineering consulting firm was also in agreement. And I consulted with the county attorney as well, and she said it was defensible, she said it was a good decision, so that's where we went, so.
Before we go into the village,
Yeah.
Who made Main Street? I know there was some discussion that the village should be doing something about it, but we do it.
Yeah, we've had discussion. They don't have the money to fix up and. Yeah, it's
That's something that.
it's not something I wanna see happen, but I don't know how we can fix it. Unless the counties wanna pay for it, I'm sure the village will take the money from us.
It's just like street.
It's just like, simply Liberty Street over here. We're gonna go through there and pave it,
Yeah.
and a week later, the village's gonna dig it up for a water leak.
And that's another one that absolutely needs to be done. So, I know it's been band-aided for a long time, but that is another one that needs work on. We met with the village on it, and they, have the same thing, they don't have the money.
By the sewage plant. And one was there, that.
But it's a shame because that park goes right by there, that road goes right by the park, like it should be a lot nicer than that is. Which is pretty much what do you do, as soon as we pay it, they're gonna tear it up.
You don't know Liberty yet. Same thing, we're by the park. Road grounds, the prison.
Other than that, we began work on May 23rd on our Cross Road. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. We actually are starting to assemble the pipe today. We have a guy from the manufacturer out, pipe manufacturer to assist us. At least to start with putting it together. That'll probably take a little while, but we are ahead of schedule and I'm sure we're under budget.
How big is it, it resembles a small plastic building? It's like,
Yeah, it's monstrous.
It's 9 feet tall and 12 foot at the widest point. Wide.
Replacing a 3 foot pipe.
did you get where you did the hailstone or the?
Yeah.
hailstone?
Yeah.
Did that?
Yeah, we got it. And that was a huge help. That was great.
Yeah, the cheapest material we could get was just background gravel, I think $5.50 a ton was a low bid for that. And we were able to get fieldstone for the town of Weathersfield that they had purchased from a pavement farmer for, I think it was $3.25 a ton. So.
And this is just for a temporary road.
Yeah.
Well, we have to move that when you get done.
We'll push it into the bank, because we have to shake the bank anyways. Yeah. So we'll just push it into the bank and use it.
Use it as fill.
East Lake Road, we selected our consultant for that, CNS Companies. We've had a couple of meetings already. That we have an item here, moving down for their services. And the only other thing I have, we started paving a little bit. We finally made it Beaver Road to Barber Road. Asphalt prices are astronomical, as you all know. So we're just trying to be a little creative. With what we do. So
Are you labor and fiber net. We're going to roll, we're gonna build it, what, probably so depending on the build, it's gonna be $14,000 more because
Those two roads just had fiber net put on, the Weaver and Barber.
And we just swept it off now, or they will be swept off.
This weekend today.
Yeah, so with all the truck traffic that those roads get, we felt it was a good idea to use that. It holds up really well over time.
What's the fiber?
It's actually fiberglass.
They leave it into the oil.
Oh, fiberglass.
Yeah,
Ah.
Oh, they finished.
it's not that.
I'm like, oh, they need wool.
It's like.
Every day, and then, put it on.
So that too, we're
Smoker Road.
TNT. I think Mike's group is still doing stuff, but we're done with our part, so.
For helping those guys out there.
That's similar to what we get concrete, but 500, same.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. There's a machine that actually blows the fiber down, so it goes on clean, like it's a white mat of fiber. And over top of that is oil and stone. So the fiber actually makes a layer to where the existing cracks and things like that don't reflect back up through it. So it makes a permanent or unpermeable layer to keep the moisture and everything out and anything to come up from it.
It serves a purpose, you would overlay a road for a different purpose, but for that purpose, and that, it just seemed practical to do that. So. That's all I got really for the main work update. If anybody else has any questions.
Church Road in Bennington, is all you're doing on that, or the dam removals, clearing stuff out?
That's what we've been doing up there, yeah.
Okay. I've been getting like emails and phone calls that, I don't know, people seem to think you're shutting the road down for the whole summer. And.
Oh, maybe French Road?
No, this is Church Road.
Yeah, we don't have any signs up there or anything,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had some over on French Road.
Yeah.
We replaced the cross culvert over there. But those signs have all been picked up as far as like the road being closed and things like that. Over on Church, it's just the Beaver Dam.
Okay.
uh,
And you're
small
talking
stop.
about like detouring people or traffic on Pinkham and lights.
Unless there's something going on with DOT, maybe they're doing something. Yeah, maybe with a bridge or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything, so.
Yeah, when you're worried, cast out very purchase a trailer, the paper, so God in the paper, you need something, you.
You guys hauled a dump truck for us up at Rochester. Truck. Third time in 6 months been up there, the first 2 times it was $5,000 each time. This is gonna be turbo, so I don't know.
So you can charge them 4,900. No, we have.
No, we're not into it. The truck has been a piece of, Brendan bought it.
We find that most of ours is emission stuff.
This is the first one we bought, that it's got the regen on it. And the first week we had it, and then we go back to the shop because it wouldn't regen, shut right down.
To get it fixed, I heard from 2 different, highway departments, they built a new truck, turn it out for that.
But it's, I mean, it is a little truck, it's got a lot of miles on it, but it's got 150,000 miles on it, you know, something for long. And it's gone through the first 2 times, we looked it up here with injectors. They had injector issues. A week later, it's going to the same thing, into another injector. They had been there a week later, Paul Snow with it, injector. So, it's.
Okay, so we'll update them.
Yeah.
Any questions for that? Number 13. Authorized 10% contract. all vendors for asphalt field density testing. Needed based on price or availability of the wrong. Just to make sure that put it down to, just to put it down to.
It's to keep them honest. It really what it is, it's as needed, you may use it, every once in a while, and there's two of them, because they're not always, one's not always available, so. Just to make sure we're getting what we pay for.
Motion by Supervisor King. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Construction, the highway shoulder removal on Black Road, that seemed pretty reasonable, $5,000. Yeah, so pull the shoulders and clean up, so
Just mill out the shoulders.
just.
Yes, just mill it. This is ahead of our tech project coming up. Next year, they're doing a design for it. However, this sort of project is, we're not able to widen the road any. So we're gonna do it ourselves, try to keep the price low and widen it before the project starts. And then we'll do the mill and fill on the entire road. This will also be no lane for a bike lane.
Yeah, this is quite a request for bike lane around the lake, down to those areas. Motion?
Gonna be a toll bridge on that, on that white line, toll bridge, or toll booth, the white line.
Part of the Silver Lake Trail, probably. Motion by Supervisor Grant, further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Another bid award for Allen Chase Enterprises for vegetation control. For citizens around bridges and guardrails and those efforts.
And this is something I think we need to discuss a little bit. This is double what our budget was. And because of the only person that bid on this project is out of, where they're from, Oswego. You know, we're, obviously the gas prices are gonna be paying more, so this is something that we really, then the next item is we'll move some money around to make it happen. We contacted Jason Smith, I think, a little bit, he's a local guy, but he cannot meet our specs for what we want. But he does work for DOT, so I'm actually gonna work with them and get their specs and compare and maybe next year we'll be able to get someone local and hopefully more reasonable.
I don't know, like last year, we did this.
Yeah. It's not cheaper just to send somebody with a weed whacker around for the day.
That's one.
Well, I know the company taking a long time to grow up to, they told me that the ground, most ground that was made in China.
But you can't use Roundup by Crooks.
Yeah, so we can't use them, they're not licensed to now, and that's.
So anyways, with the Roundup, they shut the planes down so that we had to spot during the Olympics. That's a shortage.
So the plan moving forward is I'm gonna see if I can have the specs meet what the local vendors can provide. I think it's silly that someone can do something for the state that they can't do it for us.
That's true. If Jason can.
Usually the state is a little more strict on what they want, but it's probably a little unnecessary, so I just wanna compare and see what theirs are.
So I think about just taking action at this time.
Well, this is what it is this year. Next year, I think we can change it. So if you guys decide that it's necessary, then we'll just have to move the money around to make it happen.
What do you think, did it help?
Yeah, he gets to do it out of my road. Part of my road, I go down every year and I whack it down several times because you can't see coming up my road, flying off 39 and running up Hardee's. So I do it every year.
Is it less expensive to not do it and have a potential accident?
Well, and this might be a thing too, where maybe we don't do it every year, or every other year, potentially.
Is there a possibility to have somebody get a pesticide license?
I'm not sure how that costs.
Then you'd have to have the equipment.
Then you get equipment.
And there's-
And that's liability.
Insurance issues
Yeah.
too. You're liable.
Right, so I'm not sure we wanna take on the liability, at least now if one of these vendors does something.
When the spring stain is flowers.
They're not gonna do a good job.
Yeah, she can sue them.
Correct.
What is,
I know the village attic has got its license. Well, the base fair on the sidewalk and stuff. But, with Perry over the other village, you know, well, my guy, at the cemetery, like, he used to go around the cemetery, so. I would go down and help you, but suppose I have, you know, an agricultural. Somebody can work under you, yeah. You know, I know the village got camped up for, what's it for?
Yeah, you need someone local, it doesn't make sense to have someone from Syracuse come out and spray weeds.
Right. Those are the things where it's the drive time,
Right.
gas and everything. Get
So we can do it this year, that's fine, we'll see, again, we'll see.
Okay, which budget? Ready?
I'll move 15, 16.
Okay. Ready? Have a motion to write grant for 15, 16. We control. For various. So there's discussion. Favor?
Aye.
Carried. There's a professional service contract. Buffalo Niagara Water. Replacement of Colorado Coast. Agreed to pay Wyoming County Highway Department to the order and all that, see, $300,000. We're putting some money into that, right? This is all there.
It's, yeah, we should be putting a sign.
Or we get paid for doing the work, right?
And this contract is, so we had to sign it at a time, so we can start the work, if they have other stuff going on, we don't wanna work everybody else's work, we want to work out.
I have a motion by Supervisor Kale, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 18, professional service contract with William Greens Company. Richard Gardner repairs on Saltville Road, insurance claim. Motion by Supervisor Kale, further discussion. Anything to add to this?
So this, yeah, target.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. As well as another professional service contract for White Construction. With the vision of Jetterback truck, clean out all the pipes. This is a medium.
Yeah, as you,
Yeah.
Move it.
Motion Supervisor Davis. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next company, West Seneca for the Exchange Street project, not have to exceed $560,500. Chairman's motion, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And next one is another one for CMS Engineers. Vision Engineering Services on East Lake Road, 1939. For renovate that can see 96,000. This is just the engineering of that.
yeah, this is a tip project. So we will reimburse.
I thought maybe Joe.
Want a new driveway or?
Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 22. 2001 Mack truck repair, actually, just lower your tank. So there's 3 options on here. What's your recommendation?
So our head mechanic thinks he can fix majority of the truck for 10 to 12 days. But that's also not diving into it too much and not seeing the small stuff inside. You run into that issue anywhere, so we have quotes to fix the truck. But it's gonna be the same thing, once you get in there and you look, you're gonna be paying more probably, so.
The truck, you could negotiate to go ahead.
It's drivable.
Yeah.
I mean, overall.
I mean, the biggest issue, I guess, that would need to be seen is like the current radiator support. The radiator is pushed back a little bit. For that reason, we cut the fan belt on it, just so when we do start it moving around, the fan doesn't kick on if it's going to the radiator. So that's something to be addressed there. And other than that, it's probably just cosmetic. Needs a new hood, headlights, a door. The window is down, we're not sure of the condition of the window, because you're gonna have to gut it, obviously, to take the parts out of that to put into a different door. Unless we can find used parts somewhere. But a 2001 Mack, it may be a little difficult to find some used parts
So
somewhere.
the guys land this truck because it's reliable.
Doesn't have that emissions stuff on it.
It's a big box on it. But it is an old one, so I guess if we want to replace it, I would like to budget for something next year. But we would need to replace it.
I would think we take insurance money, let the guys do this project, start over there, and see if they can get rid of it. If it doesn't, we have a salvage available anyways, you know.
So that's the other thing, so through the insurance company, we can send it to a salvage vendor and buy it back. But you can buy it back, it's a negotiation, they started at 8,000, I had to talk to them because I wanted to see what we were doing. You can buy it back for 8,000, but then you get a salvage title, so you can't sell it. So then we're stuck with it, so.
You'd be better off just taking the money on it,
Right.
because we just sold an older truck. And some guy from Massachusetts came and got it, because he wanted the parts. We got a lot more for it than we ever
So,
thought.
salvage, so we can't kind of get rid of it, yeah, and scrap it.
Pretty much.
Can't be retitled.
I don't think so.
It'll be retitled, it'll be retitled salvage.
Right.
Yeah, so it would probably, I know for cars, I'm not sure about big trucks. Normally you go up to Dingeon Street in Buffalo, there's a regular state inspection site there. Where they go through and inspect everything, make sure it's roadworthy, and then they reissue a title. So you can actually register and put it on the road, but it'll say salvage now. The big thing with salvage is sometimes you get an issue with insurance and stuff like that, where insurance companies don't wanna, they'll never carry that on a vehicle, so.
How's that being, this truck unavailable? Okay,
We can manage. We would like that truck, but we can manage without it.
We are managing it. I mean, I could use it every day if I had it at my disposal. I mean, that's something right now, but. Yeah, we're down a truck. I mean, Mr. Cal can attribute to how difficult things are when you're down a truck,
I know quite often when you get it to do it, some million, if I get utilized.
We've been pushing on towns to give us a hand, and they've been all fantastic in giving us help. We're just hauled a bunch of material over to Crows Road there. A bunch of the towns are involved helping us. Attica, Gainesville, Warsaw, Orangeville. Probably forgetting a couple others, but yeah, they went really well as a team with us.
I'm not a fan of salvage option. I'm not a fan of salvage option personally, but. That's if you want.
Everybody else there?
He wants to keep the truck. You'd rather keep the truck.
Probably, yeah. They take insurance money and try to work on it. Unless anybody else
It's
says.
just a long way from price. That's it. Think enterprise is interested in it?
They said they do on occasion lease dump trucks, but not really what they do with that. So, maybe we upgrade.
So from what I understood though, if we keep the truck, you don't get insurance.
But you can-
The insurance company, they'll keep it and we fix their stuff.
Oh,
Which option, Joe? They've got 3 options out there.
so we can,
So we withdraw our claim from the insurance and then, we would pay for it ourselves.
Well, what you say, if you take the church money, then we gotta go buy it back for.
Because it goes through the contract and it's,
You take
So
nothing.
that means you get it, right, that's the point, the difference between the option 2 and 3. So you get about $15,000 to work on the truck, but you get a salvage title. Otherwise, you withdraw the claim and work on it yourself, and it is what it is.
Then you don't get yourself in sight.
Right.
Correct.
we need to show it. If we're thinking it through an '01 truck, what is it? I just, maybe it's better to just fix it.
Fix it ourselves. And then at some point, we can split that off to international or something.
Yeah, it's still titled regular.
I'd still get 15 right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. The title's the important part.
Mhm.
You take it up to Buffalo to be inspected, you're gonna find some stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Decision is to
Yeah, with
option 3.
keep the trucks fixed.
If he wants to keep it.
Motion is to,
No, repair it on their own.
Withdraw the claim.
you withdraw the claim and repair the truck on road. For discussion, all in favor? Oh. And we've updated our record, there's winter, so we'll talk about that. Okay, 23. There's products or. Well, this is our heat. Winter recovery and pothole money. State, so not in the, but this is over and above what we expected.
Yes, we did not budget for we didn't budget for the WR, and at the time, we didn't know about the pothole program. So this is to add that money into the collection minutes so we can spend it.
Okay. Motion by Supervisor Grant and
we're only gonna pay $12 per road for that.
yeah. We're lucky.
okay. All those in favor? Opposed? 24 is guardrail insurance company, that's what we just talked about, having a perfect motion.
Yes.
Motion for 24. Motion by Supervisor Davis. Further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries 25. This is a $5,000 interfund revenue, pay expenses related to buildings and ground project at the MB. I don't know that it was a quick project for that, done, they put a hole under there.
It spun into something a lot more than what we originally thought it was gonna be, so.
I think it's appropriate, they could reimburse part of it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's.
Yeah, we took a little bit of more to pay, we usually have some money in our brother's line, and then we offset that with the revenue. So we have a little more that we didn't know we were gonna have this project, so we had to move a little money to be able to pay the bills related to this. And then we'll build buildings and grounds.
Most of this was just for labor, they provided all the material.
No, we bought most of the material, all the concrete and stuff, we paid for it, because we have the account with Hanson and.
Lumber for our forms and, I mean, Mike just wanted us to do the project ourselves, we weren't trying to go back and forth, so. We just did everything, he says, let me know what it is.
If longer, use other forms, other places too.
Yeah.
Okay, motion. Motion by Supervisor King. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I is the next, any funds available to pay expenses related to increased cost of diesel, $160,000. Diesel,
You're gonna find that all the departments across the county have gas line, and this has happened before, I mean, it is what it is.
Nothing you can do.
Figure it out.
Is this expected to cover through the rest of the year, or is this just?
We hope, yeah,
You hope it's double, okay.
and estimated, but that's what we're gonna need.
You're not trying to turn that, but the number of gallons you do the previous year, increase in cost.
Yeah.
What are we paying for?
Or we just took a dart.
You know, Katie, what we're paying per gallon now,
I don't,
and off-road, last delivery was 510, that's good out there.
So what's the figure you figured for the rest of the year? Did you get up to $6 or $7 on the fuel price or?
well, I had certainly figured it, did it, you know, per load, based on what we spent last year per load and.
I imagine it's gonna continue.
Supervisor Kowalski, any further discussion? Okay, as I remember seeing this all. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, two in favor, so get it. Even on your own account, but, you know, you about snow. And you start snow.
Oh, here we go.
We spent our winter fuel.
Moving on, this is done. I was with that association. Important that he kind of, some discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Do the manpower study.
It is not attached to the agenda, it is electronic. You have it brought, he says I can go make some. And we will get some.
I brought one.
So it's,
I'll go make some.
it's a,
I looked at it, but I didn't.
Oh, okay.
daunting numbers. You know, bottom line, the analysis shows that we need 80 people in highway, and 80 people in bridge. I want to shift gears a little bit, you know, so we are already getting work done with what we have, and I think that's been working just fine. But we think that we can get more work done. Obviously, even more people are gonna get more work done, but we think there's work that's necessary that we need to get done, so we need people to cover that. I think that, I talked to Janice a little bit about this, and I think the best way to do it is include in our budget request, a couple additional people for highway and for bridge. They would do it the right way and be able to cover what we budgeted for next year, so. You know, I think we'll probably ask for, you know, maybe 3 people for highway and 1 or 2 more for bridge. Because the ultimate goal for us, we want a highway crew designated for the left side of the county and 1 for the right side of the county. And we want a bridge crew, a larger bridge crew who's always working on our big culvert projects, and we want a smaller crew to go out there and do our preventative maintenance work on some of our bridges, right? So we have bridge washing, we have sealing, they can handle that. while the big crew is handling the big culvert projects. Right now, we only have one bridge crew and they're always busy and they don't have time to get to.
Well, we have 3 road crew guys on the bridge crew, helping them currently with projects. I mean, so we route from the highway to help the bridge crew, and now we're getting us on the highway. The numbers that he has on the printout are gonna just show you like some of the man hours for jobs that we have to do, and do it day in, day out.
And those numbers aren't, they're not calculated, so they are. He come up with some numbers that he thought would be reasonable for the number of hours to get each of those tasks done per year. Which is what that is. We also factored in your average vacation time per person, average in your sick time.
Thank you.
When Devin first took over, I went to him and I said that we have to sit down and prioritize what's important to him, what's important to me, so we've got kind of the same schedule. And he asked, for the priorities, why we were prioritizing, simple things that we need to do day in, day out. And I said, well, we don't have enough people to actually get the work done that I feel like we need to do, so I want to make sure we're on the same page. I explained to him, I've been in the highway department for 25 years, and in that time, I think in looking back, we're down 12 people from when I started.
And again, I would never ask for 16 people, I'm not that rude. I'm okay. A little ball on budget.
Well, I don't see on there, essentially the town highway department.
The DMV project's not on there. I mean, we were there for 3 weeks. I mean, it was a project we didn't get done because our whole bridge crew was on, that job.
There's always stuff that pops up.
These are just jobs that we have to do day in, day out. This isn't taken into account, a culvert washing out because of a flood or, multiple or losing a road. I mean, some of those jobs can become, 2, 3, 4 weeks, if you've got some sort of emergency. And going forward too, with the restrictions for the CDL requirements now, as far as drivers are gonna have to take a course before they can get their license. That pool is gonna start shrinking on us to find out. So just to have some extra people to be able to backfill when we do have someone leave, it's gonna be harder and harder to find people.
Which that brings up a kind of a different issue, but at some point, I would like to sit down and kind of discuss how we're gonna handle, finding people and possibly getting them through the course, locking them under contract or whatever it may be. I think that's something that we should discuss at some point too.
Some of the bigger discuss it in Winchester, the highway, labor unions got a pretty good contract, hours, a lot more hours than what people in the county are getting. We gotta compete that, a lot of times negotiate with the sheriff, well, they didn't go to the village, people are getting this paid, it's equal to that. I can see the guys saying the same thing.
And those courses, they're not gonna be, they're gonna be anywhere from 8,000 or 8,000 to 12,000. Your average person is not gonna have that money to spend on that course. So
You're not gonna have an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid graduate high school spend that kind of money. They're just gonna go work in a trade somewhere else. So that's where the younger generation of truck drivers is going to disappear. I mean, unless there's somebody that's going to actually pay for them to get to school. You'll have companies like Walmart and Swift and things like that that will do that. They'll always be stocked because they've got a plan in place to be able to get rid of. But it's a requirement now through the federal government that they have to have this course. So if you got a grandson on your dairy farm and you got a 10-wheeler, he just can't sign up for his road test and take your 10-wheeler. He has to pay for and take this course before he can get his license.
Well, if we've done the food, like what property extension does.
No, this is a course on Alto itself.
When does it start? Or is
It
it
started February 7th, this one started. If you weren't signed up for a road test before February 7th, you have to take this course now.
we actually had someone that we hired, he knew this was coming up and he went and got his license. He has a restriction, he can only drive automatics, but at least when he has that, now he doesn't have to take that course, he can just go and get that endorsement removed. But he get the,
I mean, it's not a problem now, but that's going to be a problem with towns, everybody, no one's gonna be able to find drivers. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare in years to come unless something changes.
One of our mechanics is also a CDL driving instructor for BOCES. He said, BOCES, I think, is looking into a program, getting a program set up, so we may be able to do something with them. I don't know that for sure, but something to look at. But I don't know if we want to pay for these guys to do it and lock them up for 5 years.
They have to reimburse maybe.
Or if they leave, they just reimburse us. I don't know, but something, at some point we're gonna have to.
The pool's gonna dry up for a while.
They need an incentive, or talk about giving incentives, to give people shots yesterday, just give incentives to people who have to make a living. But I'm saying that you get reimbursed over a period of time where your teachers are there.
So how much is the course?
So we've heard different things. We heard BOCES wants to offer it for maybe 8. We heard the typical course is around 12.
There's a certain amount of time that they have to drive before they can do it too. So it's not just take.
The whole thing takes a long time.
Right, and typically when they're doing that, they're unable to work.
Right.
So you have that expense in addition to the expense for the course.
We have someone that's a permit now, that he's been driving our vehicles with someone, but it's not a short process.
It's hard to find CDL drivers now. I mean, and this just started to went into effect, so the last 2 hires that we have, they have the restricted licenses that he's saying, but we looked into it before we hired them because we knew this new law went into effect for the course. That as long as they already had a CDL restricted, say you're a bus driver, you have a CDL, but you're restricted to a bus, which is an automatic. As long as you have that CDL, all you have to do is get your learner's permit and then take your road test. So you don't have to take the course. So that the last 2 people we've hired have had that. So we've got one we're currently training that we're gonna try to get him as a road test here maybe before winter time.
We'll take all the bus drivers.
You got a good place to practice for the road.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna be easy.
I think that's a plan,
It's a huge obstacle.
put it in the budget next year.
People can't afford.
That's what I'll do. I'm not gonna put in that.
See, that was the thing, my son-in-law. 5 months.
Any more questions for Dylan on that?
California, the last 2 weeks, driving around. Getting paid.
Right.
Anything else?
We're getting paid for them 5 months. Either we're going to school.
No, we'll have them involved in the Metcalf Gainesville 13 project. Okay.
Oh, where they put the tablets in.
Yeah, so we have them, I think right now it's we're done with 50 hours left for them. So we will be putting the rest of those hours in there.
So there was, a year ago, there was another county who wanted to get something checked. Did they ever get them or?
No, so I've had multiple people reach out and about an employer. I told them, yeah, just let them know, never heard back from them. I think, I was talking to someone from Lobella who was very close to Todd, and Todd's vision for those wasn't just to use them, those are exchange for services, exchange for favors. We don't have a place for all of them. It's good to keep a couple for emergencies probably, but we have a lot of them out there. We're gonna use 3 for Metcalf Road, after that, we have no.
I understand, there's different parts, A and B got to go together, A and C don't fit, right?
And that's why we're using 3 of them on Metcalf Road, that's gonna be enormous. But it is what it is.
We have the ability to
Probably double.
And there's not one panel like another panel. So underneath, there's different height measurements for piers and things like that that they originally sat on. So in setting up the new piers that actually set them on, every pier is gonna have to be individually poured to the level and grade that it needs to be to match that one panel. So
we can see yourself.
no, that's.
We'll get a crane, and also, I got them to go down to Allegheny County at some point to pick them up, but they have lifting devices for these panels. I think actually you'll probably drive down there and pick them up. But right after this project, right, so that Gross Road, we're right over Gainesville, so. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Any words? Good.
There was.